I used to believe that a family could only break in loud ways, shouting, doors slamming, people storming out and never looking back. That was the kind of damage I understood, the kind you could point to and say, this is where it ended. What I did not understand, at 67 years old, was how quietly a family could hollow itself out while everyone kept speaking in polite voices. My daughter and her husband drove away on a narrow Highland road without raising their voices at all. No shouting, no dramatic pause, just the sound of an engine accelerating and gravel scattering behind their tires. I stood on the edge of a small, uneven patch of grass with my suitcase beside me and watched the car shrink into the distance, until it was only a smear of gray against the hills. For a moment, I waited for them to come back. Not because I believed they would, but because my body had not yet accepted what my mind already knew, that the waiting was pointless, that whatever had brought us here had already passed its point of correction. My name is Margaret Caldwell. I am an American grandmother, a retired museum coordinator, and until that afternoon I was someone who still believed that patience could repair almost anything. I was wrong. The silence after they disappeared was so complete it felt staged. Wind moved through the grass. Somewhere far away, sheep bleated. I could hear my own breathing and nothing else. I remember thinking, very calmly, that this was not how people described abandonment. There was no violence in it, just removal. I checked my phone. No signal, no battery. I counted the money in my wallet, 43 pounds. Those were the facts. Everything else was interpretation. 3 weeks earlier, I had been in my kitchen in Minnesota, folding laundry, when Jessica called. She rarely called unless there was a practical reason: childcare, money, logistics. That day, her voice sounded strangely bright. "Mom, Brian's company is sending him to Edinburgh," she said. "We thought you might want to come along, make a trip of it, spend time together." Spend time together. The phrase landed awkwardly, like a borrowed coat that didn't quite fit. We had not spent time together in years unless it was structured around her needs. Still, I felt something lift inside me, a hope I thought I had outgrown. I booked the flight. I packed carefully. I told myself not to expect too much. Expectation has a way of sneaking in anyway. From the moment I arrived, I felt slightly out of place, as if I were always a half step behind the conversation. Jessica corrected my clothing choices, my pacing, my questions. Brian spoke to me in a tone he probably thought was joking, and I had learned to hear as dismissal. I paid for meals. I paid for shopping. I paid because it was easier than asking whether I was supposed to. None of it felt catastrophic. It felt familiar. That is the part I had to examine later, when I had time and quiet and no one left to impress. Familial discomfort is still discomfort. I had just learned to call it love. The drive into the Highlands was beautiful. It was also where the pretense finally thinned. Jessica's irritation sharpened into something colder, something that no longer bothered to disguise itself. She told me I was exhausting, that I expected too much, that I had made myself to present in their lives. I listened. I did not interrupt. I noticed how easily the words came to her, how practiced they sounded, as if she had been rehearsing them for some time. When the car stopped and Brian opened the trunk, I assumed we were stretching our legs. I did not understand what was happening until Jessica took my suitcase out and set it beside the road. "You'll manage," she said. "You always do." Then they left. Standing there afterward, I thought about all the times I had been told by friends, by therapists, by advice columns that adult children sometimes needed distance, that independence required boundaries. I had respected those ideas. I had even defended them. What no one prepared me for was the way cruelty could be disguised as self-care. I walked toward the cluster of stone buildings that passed for a village. The first few doors were locked. One building had a sign for a post office that no longer functioned. I did not panic. Panic would not help. I needed shelter, warmth, a phone. That was how I found the pub. Inside, the light was soft and yellow, the air warm with conversation and the smell of food. When I explained my situation, the woman behind the bar Murad did not ask whether I deserved what had happened. She did not ask for details. She asked what I needed. That question stayed with me. It became, in many ways, the center of everything that followed. I slept upstairs that night in a narrow bed with a heavy wool blanket. I lay awake, listening to the buildings settle, and tried to think in practical terms. Transportation, money, communication. I did not cry, not because I was strong, but because my body seemed to be holding itself in reserve. The crying came later. The next morning, My phone charged and came alive with notifications from my bank. At first, I assumed it was a security error related to foreign travel. Then I read the messages more carefully. Unusual activity, multiple transfers, declined charges. When I called, I learned that my accounts had been drained slowly over several months, not recklessly, carefully, in amounts small enough not to alarm me. Transfers authorized under my name. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt something inside me go very still. This was not an impulsive act. It was a process. That realization changed the shape of my grief. Betrayal, when it is sudden, hurts like a wound. Betrayal that unfolds over time feels more like erosion. You start to wonder which parts of you were ever solid to begin with. Moira listened as I explained. She did not soften her words. "That's abuse," she said, "and the fact that she's your daughter doesn't make it less so." I did not argue. I did not defend Jessica. That surprised me. Something had shifted. I was no longer looking for ways to excuse her behavior. I was trying to understand it. Understanding, I learned, is not the same as forgiveness. Over the following weeks, I stayed, not because I had nowhere else to go, though that was partly true, but because something about the rhythm of the place steadied me. Moira asked if I could help her sort through items stored in an old warehouse behind the pub. Furniture, books, ceramics, things people had left behind when lives changed faster than they could carry everything with them. The work was methodical. Inventory, research, documentation. I had done this before, in another life, when I believed my career would always be mine. As my hands moved through the objects, my mind began to move through my own history with similar care. I started keeping notes, not about the antiques, about the past. I wrote down conversations I remembered with Jessica, moments I had dismissed, requests that had made me uncomfortable, and the reasons I had ignored that feeling. I treated my own life like an archive, not to assign blame, but to establish a record. This was my investigation. Quiet, unimpressive, necessary patterns emerged. I saw how often I had equated generosity with love, how frequently I had accepted disrespect as the price of proximity, how my fear of losing my daughter had made me pliable. None of this absolved her, but it explained me. The financial trail was clear enough once I looked at it without denial. The emotional trail was harder. It led through years of small concessions, each one justified as temporary. The aftermath did not resolve itself quickly. There were days I woke up angry, days I woke up numb, days I woke up convinced I had imagined everything. Healing did not move in a straight line. It looped, it stalled, it surprised me. I did not return home right away. I did not announce my decisions. I let the quiet do its work. Months passed. The work with Moira grew into something sustainable. I learned what it felt like to contribute without being consumed, to be useful without being exploited. The difference was subtle, but profound. Sometimes, late at night, I thought about calling Jessica, not to accuse her, not to reconcile, just to hear her voice. Each time, I stopped myself and asked the harder question: what would that cost me now? The answer was never simple, but it was honest. Eventually, the sharpness of the betrayal dulled into something heavier and more manageable. I stopped rehearsing conversations in my head. I stopped scanning my memories for missed warnings. I accepted that love does not guarantee safety, and that safety does not require love to be real. When I look back on the moment on the roadside, what strikes me now is not the cruelty of it, but the clarity. The life I thought I was preserving had already been taken from me, piece by piece. What remained was choice. I chose not to disappear. I chose to stay present in my own life, even when it felt unfamiliar. I am not grateful for what happened. I do not believe suffering is necessary for growth, but I do believe that real attention changes things. It changed me. I still miss my grandchildren. I still carry the shape of my daughter in my memory. Those losses do not resolve neatly. They settle. They ask to be carried with care. I am learning how. And if this story touched something inside you, then stay with Whispers of May. God bless.